It's the pop culture field, and you will.
Whenever we are placed in front of a burning wall of adversity, the one thing we have control over that can be used as a weapon of mass destruction to tear down that wall is our own physical bodies. The ability to become a barrel-chested, 5-mile running, weight-crushing machine is a skill that we have honed in our own military experience, as well as watched our heroes in some of our favorite pieces of pop culture cultivate. Ask yourself, would Rambo have been as successful hip-firing that heavy-ass M60 if he wasn't that jacked? Exactly. So today, we're going to talk about some workouts featured in pop culture as well as our own experience with fitness. So I'm actually very excited with this one because this has been, fitness has been in my life ever since I joined the military, and even before in the form of hip hop dance. But it is one of those things that should never leave you once you start. And I know it's also heavily ingrained in you coming from the CrossFit background. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, man. I mean, if we want to go over our backgrounds for just a little bit, I've been an athlete my whole life. My dad had me in flag football and Little League baseball and basketball when I was a kid. Sports were always a big part of his life, and so, of course, he wanted to kind of engender that to us or within us, me and my brother, as we grew up. And so it's just been kind of a normal part of my life. And I was thankful for that because when I joined the Army and there were physical activities that had to be completed, that was never really a big problem for me. But what the Army did for me was instill within me that discipline and that the appreciation for being physically fit in terms of specific training and specific goals, and then also just life in general. And then, it did introduce me to CrossFit in 2006 for the Q course, during the Echo training, which was the radio training that we did. All of our instructors were like CrossFitters, and so they introduced the concept to us. And then later on, when I got stationed at Fort Lewis, I found a local CrossFit gym, CrossFit Tacoma, with that, and that was all. It was all downhill from there, all uphill from there, I should say.
I guess, yeah. Well, that's good, man. It's, one thing about CrossFit, a lot of people give it a lot of shit because, there's that famous joke. It's like a vegan, a Marine, and a CrossFitter walk into a bar. I know this because they told me that it was the first thing they told me when I met them.
Yep. CrossFitters talk about CrossFit.
Yeah, CrossFit, talk about CrossFit. But, all jokes aside, and like whatever you think about CrossFit, it is proven. It is literally proven. Some of the best athletes that I know on this planet and in the military are all CrossFitters. It's just the perfect workout type. And, I'm not over here to be biased because I've done bodybuilding, I've done CrossFit, I've trained for endurance, and the one thing that I've seen, or the one type of working out or method of working out that I've seen is most proven to just create the best all-around performer, not the strongest, but not the fastest, but just all-around best, performance as an individual can is CrossFit. Yeah. Because I've always had this philosophy that's like, I never want to be, I don't want to be the strongest guy. I don't want to be the fastest guy, but I want to be the strongest runner and the fastest lifter. Yeah. And CrossFit does that. Yeah.
It's CrossFit is, I believe, based on sound human physiological truths or physical truths about humanity and good principles. And so at its best, it can really make you a well-rounded athlete. And there's a little bit of diet in there too that has some, I think, good foundational truths to it that can lead you on the path to eating better. And as we know, Cameron, eating is like 60% of the game, I think, when it comes to health and wellness and fitness goals. You can do all this, you can do all the training you want, but if you're not feeding the fire the way that you should be, you're not going to feel your body right, Yeah,
it's not what you lift, it's what you eat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like having an engine but having no gasoline in it. But it's interesting with the genres that we normally talk about, action, military, sci-fi, all these kind of, there's always, we've talked about montages, or we will talk about montages. Maybe we'll talk about montages next week, but the physical specimen, right? The action hero all of these things come with them like it's an inherent expectation of physical fitness, right?
Yeah.
And the examples that we're going to talk about today, I think we can sparse out and pull some just apart from just admiring them. I think we can pull out some good ideas so that if any of you are out there, let's say you watch a movie, you watch an action sequence, hopefully after listening to this episode, you can kind of get inspired to say like, I want to do that, or like I want to do something similar to that, or I at least want to be in that kind of physical shape to just in case like some real world situation happens and I need to react to protect somebody or to protect myself, or even to protect my Xbox, man. You possibly could have a better chance of doing that, because I think one of the things that we don't actually talk about a lot when it comes to action movies is the inspiration that you can get from them. You know, the idea of watching somebody and instead of just being impressed in the moment at what they can do, hopefully something inside you awakens a little bit, like, man, I wonder if I could do that, you know, or something close to that. And
you said possibly aid you, and I'm going to go ahead and disagree. I think it will 100% aid you.
All right.
Yeah.
No,
it's just, I've never, think about it. How many action heroes, how many, protagonists of action movies where the hero has to do a very physically demanding thing are fat slobs?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I mean, some comedies, where like the underdog ends up being the rescue, but he never has to for example, the Rambo reference, he never has to hip fire an M60 for hours to, hold to prevent a forest from capturing him. It's usually something simple and easy,
right?
That they just get thrown into. But I think the common theme when you watch any action movies or any movies about heroes is a definitely aspect of their physical fitness, which allows them to do the things that they are doing.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely want to talk about some pieces of pop culture that feature workouts in them, and then we can go to people in movies that are just physical beings.
Yeah.
And then general thoughts on fitness. I mean, you guys got a good idea of what we think and how we think fitness should be incorporated into your life, because it should 100% be, because it will change your life.
Yes.
But I wanted to start out going not real world, but anime.
Yeah.
Because I love this anime,
and
it's so entertaining, and it's all centered around being physically fit. And just what working out can do to you, just in a very dramatic tone. So we're going to start out real quick with, you guys know the One Punch Man. We've talked about him in the past on our anime episodes, but this anime features a main character who is iconically bald, or iconically retically challenged, or not retically, that's
Cutically?
eyes, but
Cuticle?
yeah,
Cuticle?
yeah,
or,
you're follically
challenged.
yeah, he is follically challenged hero. But after his experience with a monster where he gets his ass kicked, he realizes that he needs to train. And when you hear someone say, I need to train, it means they need to get their ass in shape. So the One Punch Man swears by his secret, which is his daily workout that he has been doing for a year and a half. And, there have been a lot of like YouTubers that have like tried and attempted this workout. And sometimes I want to try it, but it's a lot. Honestly, it's a lot of running. But the workout is, if you want to be able to punch holes to the core of the earth and to defeat any obstacle in front of you like it is nothing, you need to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 air squats, and run 10K every day for a year and a half, and you will be a superhuman. That is guaranteed fact, according to Japanese anime.
I love it. I love the contrast, because I think this is in response to somebody. I think the Cyborg Man asks him to train him, and he's like, I must know your secret. And he gets like really serious. He's like, this is my secret. This is, if you do this, then you will be just like me. And this is after him, like, everything he does, he wins in one punch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Saitama is his name, and he is a monster.
Yeah.
But he's like this, but all he does is push-ups, sit-ups, air squats, and run 10K every day. And apparently doing that much physical exercise forces your hair to fall out because it just can't. You can't support that level of testosterone in your body from doing that. No, your hair just falls right out. But I guess like if you want to be the strongest man in the world, hair is the last thing you're worried about.
No, man, it's a metaphor for the sacrifices that are required to be an amazingly physically fit superhero, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Which is ironic because that's what steroids do to you too. But
that's what he doesn't tell you. That's the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
If you don't see him shooting up like, you know, like the wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah, like the wrestler. That's a hell of a movie. But yeah, I thought, you know, Saitama's just overall philosophy for working out, I think I think you can appreciate it regardless of if it's not real. But just the commitment. The one common theme I think you'll see with people, not only like we mentioned in the beginning, is their physical fitness, but what does it take to achieve that level of physical fitness? And for me, it's not necessarily motivation, because motivation runs out at one point. Like I think all of us listening and all of us, you know, Izzy and I can speak to the fact that, you know, we're all super motivated at one time, whether you see something that inspires you and motivates you to get in shape. But, you know, after a while, motivation runs out. And what are you left with after the motivation is out? You want me to answer that question? I will answer it. It is discipline. Discipline trumps motivation when it comes to working out, because when motivation runs out, if you have discipline, you will do it regardless whether you want to or not. Yeah. So I think having discipline is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing you can have when it comes to improving yourself physically. And Saitama definitely has discipline because he did this workout, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 air squats, 10K every day, no rest days for a year and a half.
Yeah. Discipline equals freedom, as Jocko says, because it's the discipline is the ability to do what you know you have to do, regardless of whether or not you feel like it, right?
Yeah. I feel like if Saitama was a real man and he was talking to Jocko, Jocko would be like, your hair fell out? Good. Because now you don't have to worry about doing your hair in the morning, so then you can go to the gym quicker. Good.
That's right. That's what Jocko would say. Yep. No excuses. Go read his book. It'll take you 30 seconds, at least the first half, before you get to the workouts, because every page has one sentence on it.
Yeah. Your wife left you? Good. Now you can be in the gym longer. Yeah.
He's great. Well, our next guy, I think we can take a little bit of time to talk about this character, because I think he has caused many people to be inspired to live more fit lives, and his montages are iconic within the world of cinema. That for pumping people up. Talk about motivating people. He has motivated millions of people, I'm sure, the world over. But it's Rocky, man. It's the Italian stallion. It's Sylvester Stallone. From the 70s all the way up until even today, he inspires people to, it just goes to show you, man, no matter how old you are, there is no amount that you have, there's no amount of horse steroids that you can't take to get yourself back into shape.
I mean, he's 77. Yeah. Everyone thinks steroids are terrible for you, but look at this guy. He looks great, and he's 77. Yeah. He's still able to work out. He's still able to do this. He might not be able to make any more children, but you know, I mean, hell, every steroids can be a completely different episode. But but yeah, no, absolutely, the Rocky series, and you know, I don't think we can talk about physical fitness and pop culture without going into the boxing realm, because that is a sport that requires endurance and power. There's no sneaking around it in boxing or any type of combat sport ever. So I think, you know, Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, we have a list here of all the types of movements he does in these movies. If you want to talk about a few.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, it's interesting how it evolves, because Rocky 1 came out like the late 70s, I think. And so he was doing things like sprints and distance running, clapping push-ups, hitting that speed bag, of course, a lot of sit-ups, and then punching the meat. The two most iconic things, he's got the punching meat and the meat locker, you know, which I'm sure would be kind of, you know, a good training, because it's like
tough.
Punching a person's body,
Yeah.
But then
That's really cold. A really cold person's body.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. A dead person's body that's hanging up in a meat locker. But
everybody gets the feeling to punch a corpse every
yeah,
now and then. I know I have.
you know about me, man. Sometimes you just got to punch a corpse.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel that.
But then, of course, the most iconic scene, and we'll talk about this when we talk about montages. But running the steps, man, running up the steps, man. Stadium running is actually really good. Have you ever done any kind of stadium running?
Yeah, so basically, the first day of RASP, you do something called a Doughboy run, and it is like everybody's there for the first day. They say 06 wake up, so everybody's getting prepared to start RASP, and then they come in at like 4 in.the.morning and just come in screaming, wake you up, and then you commence what's known as the Doughboy run, which is like a 3-mile dead sprint to Doughboy Stadium in Fort Benning. And like they basically just get the fastest cadre possible, and he runs at like a 5:45, 6-minute pace, and you just try to keep up with him. Yeah. Like this formation run turns into like this just long line of people just trying to keep up.
Trying to stay
and then he'll run in little loops, allowing people to catch up, and then he'll just take off again. But then you end the run at Doughboy Stadium, which is where you then start the PT, which is running the steps up and down, up and down, up and down. So yeah, stadium workouts, there is really no rest, because even on the way down, you're making sure your legs don't give out and you just tumble down these stairs.
Right. So continuing on, Rocky, it's interesting because I think there are some things that change and some things that stay the same, which might give you a hint, if in your workouts of maybe some good all-around movements, because I'm looking at the list that we have compiled here for the Rocky movies, and it looks like jumping rope is always up there. Speed bag stuff is always up there, at least for him, for being a boxer. But then, we start getting into a little bit more like medicine ball work. Like in Rocky 2, he's got sledgehammer swings, which is very like that functional fitness kind of stuff. Barbell presses. And then in Rocky 3, he's doing a little more swimming and foot drills. I'm seeing a lot of like high intensity interval training. I'm seeing a lot of functional movement. And then of course he's got specific movements that apply directly to what he's doing, like punching bag stuff. I think Rocky 4 is probably one of my favorites, because in this one he goes to Russia, and they have like the contrast between Ivan Drago's training and his training. And Ivan Drago's got like the best scientists, and he's got all this technology behind him, and they're measuring everything to a T, which can be really helpful in your kind of training for measuring progress.
If you have money.
Yeah, and lots of drugs, And
lots of drugs and money to fund it.
Exactly. But Rocky's out there in the mountains of Siberia. He's chopping down trees, he's running in the snow. I'm sure running in the snow as with running on the beach is like super good. Yeah.
It's so tough.
Yeah. And then, he's doing pull-ups, but he's doing pull-ups like in a barn somewhere, or he's doing like the military press, but it's like an old cart with like a bunch of barrels on it, He's sawing wood. He's doing a lot of practical CrossFit or, functional fitness, you could say. Functional fitness being movements that your body is designed to do naturally. It's like a pushing, pulling, running, jumping, squatting, crawling, all that kind of stuff. But it's also, that's like super practical. It's like a great contrast, and it kind of helps to tell the story in Rocky 4 specifically, but totally legit stuff, So if you could take something from that, you could take that if you're out there, maybe you don't have any equipment, you can't get access to a gym, you can fill up some water jugs, or you can grab, some sandbags outside, you can get to work.
Let's talk about one of my all-time favorite, this is super obscure too, and it's taken from a piece of pop culture that didn't do as well as it I think should have, because it was excellent, and it was, I think, just made by the wrong people. But Batman versus Superman, poor DC, they can't compete with Marvel ever. But in Batman versus Superman, when Bruce Wayne is training to take down Superman, I think it is one of the coolest workout montages of all time, because he's doing functional movements, and he's doing it in this dark and gritty manner. It's almost depressing watching it, but it like makes you can feel his hate and just how he's taking this emotion and just pouring it into his workout. But like in Batman versus Superman, you know, he's trying to build the spear made of kryptonite to take down Superman, and he's doing these crazy movements.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not crazy, but they look medieval. It's, you know, he's doing sledgehammer swings on the tire. He's doing weighted pull-ups with like 4 45-pound plates, which is absolute strength. And he's, you know, he's doing sled pushes across concrete. He's doing sled pulls. He's doing dumbbell presses, and he's barbell squatting with chains. It's honestly one of my all-time favorite like workout montages in any movie ever. And I just feel bad because it's in Batman versus Superman because it didn't do that well.
Yeah, I know. I actually have kind of softened my views on the kind of Snyderverse movies in more recent years, and just because I didn't give them, they weren't what I was used to, because Snyder went dark for his universe, and I didn't appreciate them as much at the time. I think I appreciate them a little bit more than I used to. What's interesting to me when you're talking about the montage, especially, which we'll talk about later, with foreshadowing for next week's episode, but the sledgehammer swings, all the stuff that he's doing, and he's doing it like in this dark space, it makes me think about movies as a visual medium, right? You're not reading a book. You're not listening to an audio, an audio tape or whatever, an audio
podcast,
podcast or whatever. You're watching somebody. It's a visual medium, so you're being told a story mostly through video and then audio as well, of course. But it makes me think about what does this say about the character? Like, what are we learning about Bruce Wayne? Because you said it yourself. You're like he's pouring all of his hate and all of his all of his anger towards Superman into this workout. Well, how do you show that? Like, how do you play? It's a famous like acting thing. It's like, how do you play angry? You don't play angry. You are angry. You know, and so how do you visualize how Bruce Wayne is getting ready, or how he feels about what he thinks he's about to do? Compared to, Superman getting ready for the fight, or he's not really getting ready for it, but like he has to get ready, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to me that all these things, like you can look at the montage and be like, oh, those are some pretty cool moves, functional fitness. And it's interesting that they chose those kinds of things to tell the story of Bruce Wayne getting ready to fight Superman. Like, he's not in a nice gym. He's not doing like traditional like arm curls and stuff. He's doing these things that, I don't know what Zack Snyder is, I think, a fan of that kind of functional fitness stuff, because he famously also did the workouts alongside the actors that he directed in 300, right? Because he directed 300.
Nice, yeah.
And they all got in shape together, and he wanted to do the same thing, and just to kind of relate to his actors and stuff. And he looked amazing. It's so funny to see him back then. I'm like, wow, Zack Snyder was jacked. But but anyway, it's there's that side of it, and then you flip over to Superman, and he doesn't work out, but he is Superman. So how do you tell the story of Superman at a glance? How do you know he's Superman other than he's got the suit on? Well, one thing you could do is you could make him physically fit. You can make him bigger than the average person. He has to be presumably more handsome than the average person, a la Henry Cavill, and so it's interesting to me, like what filmmakers and actors choose to do, how they change their bodies to try to tell a story about their character. You get something about who they are and what they believe in and how they think and how they see the world, or the kind, all this stuff at a glance. How do you do that? And a lot of times it involves physical fitness and changing their bodies to be a certain way. We've done, if we were talking about all sorts of body transformations, we could talk about other things like Christian Bale changing his body for The Machinist.
For The Machinist,
Or, was it Donnie Wahlberg in Sixth Sense? At the beginning, he's like that failed psychological pupil or that patient that Bruce Willis has, and he lost most of his body weight, and he was like freaking, he was punishing himself like to a degree, to get ready for that one role, because it's like, what's one of the ways that a filmmaker or an actor could use to tell something about who they are as a person, their character is? You change their physical appearance,
Yeah, no. That's a great point. And I kind of want to stay on the theme of Zack Snyder, if you don't mind, and talk and kind of transition from just overall workouts in movies that we see and just talk about the type of body transformation that the actors undergo to play roles. And you said it yourself when talking about Zack Snyder. 300, I think, is one of those movies that I never get tired of watching because I know how much effort they put in, all the actors put in. And we're talking, dozens, maybe even hundreds of dudes, 300 in fact, that hundreds of dudes literally put in months of training in order to play a role. And 300, everybody is yoked in that movie.
Yep. And people you don't recognize, the people that you aren't known for being physically fit later on, like I didn't realize until later Michael Fassbender's in that movie.
What?
Yeah, or David Wyndham, who played Faramir. He plays the eye patch dude.
Oh yeah, the eye patch, yeah. Oh yeah, Michael Fassbender's in there and he's fucking shredded. Yeah, and then all these dudes that you'd never expected are just absolutely yoked in 300.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, do you know a little bit about their training?
Yeah, what is it? It's the same guy. He actually, Mark Twitt of Jim Jones, Gym, Jim Jones, not the cult, but the gym. But he actually also trained Superman, apparently, for his getting ready to be Superman in the first Man of Steel movie. But Jim Jones, and it's basically CrossFit. Like, I don't think they could say CrossFit, and I'm sure he's a pretty knowledgeable dude. He'd be like, it's not CrossFit. But it's functional fitness. It's high intensity interval training. It's functional movements. It's things like tire flips and sprints and kipping pull-ups, ring push-ups, body holds like planks and hollow bodies.
Yeah.
It's high intensity. It's meant to push you beyond your limits. It's constant variation, which causes the body it forces the body to adapt. And it just gets results because you look at all the dudes in 300 and then Henry Cavill as Superman, and he's just freaking just jacked. And now a lot of that is diet as well. Henry Cavill, I think, was eating somewhere around the neighborhood of 5,000 calories a day, probably all really good foods. And so one thing you got to remember is anybody who's being inspired by any of this and wants to get on their own fitness journey, you got to do it at wherever level you're at, because a lot of these people, they have personal trainers, they have physical therapists, they have doctors training them or guiding them.
They have supplements.
Yeah, they have dietitians, supplements.
Yeah,
all this food, 5,000 calories a day, that's a lot of food, man.
That's like 6 meals. That's like 6 to 7, 600 to 800 calorie meals. It's a lot of food, and it's and then you also need to be sleeping properly, you need to be hydrating properly. It's a full-time thing. It's not like, somebody working a 9 to 5 is going to really struggle to, eat that much.
Yeah. And and a lot of these actors, when they get ready for a movie, they'll have 3 to 6 months just to do physical training. That's before they start, acting and being on set. They're just out there living their lives. They're training 2-3 hours a day. Maybe they're doing 2 a days, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And that's just to get their bodies looking like that. So if you're an average dude, like me or Cameron, don't worry, take years. Give yourself a long timeline to slowly build into that arena of where these dudes are at, because they're actually training for something specific. They're actors. That's their job. They're training to look a certain way, and it obviously takes a lot of discipline, so you can take that away from it. But they have a lot of resources at their disposal too, and you can get those resources together. But even if you don't have them, what you've got is you've got time, and if you've got time and discipline, if you're willing to discipline yourself over a long period of time, trust me, you'll be able to get somewhere in the neighborhood of the 300 dudes, Gerard Butler.
Just set a goal. I always like to ask people whenever they're like, I'm working out a lot. I'm like, oh, what are you training for? And if, usually it's like, oh, I don't know, I just want to be in shape. Sometimes I ask myself the same question because I always have to set a goal.
Yes.
And my goal is, sometimes when people say, what are you training for? And I just say life. And then I say I train for life. But then I also sometimes say, oh, what are you training for? I'll say, I'm training so I can kill the guy on top of the mountain. So that's my goal.
I love
so
that.
I can kill that dude on top of the mountain.
I love that. I would say I'm the same way, because in terms of motivation. It's nice to be motivated, and there's ways you can try to do that. But to add to my discipline, I got to give myself specific goals and specific timelines. Like I just finished one. It was kind of leading up to, a certain point in time that just ended. And now I'm giving myself right now until my anniversary comes up, right? Or my wedding anniversary. And so I'm like, oh, what can I do up for the next couple months to get myself ready for, to do that? And not like my wife, told me like, hey, you better start getting in shape. It's like, I need that to have that deadline, to put that pressure and accountability on myself so I can measure my progress. Because if I'm just kind of like living day to day and I'm thinking about other things, I'm not really thinking about my fitness or my health. It's easy to, maybe one morning it's like, well, I'll work out tomorrow, or I'll work out this afternoon, and then pretty soon it's been weeks and you're like, oh my God, I haven't done anything,
Yeah. Yeah. The cool thing though is nowadays there are so many like quote unquote challenges out there that you can use to your disposal to keep you on track. I think one worth mentioning is, do you know who Andy Frisella is?
No.
So Andy Frisella, he owns First Form, the supplement company.
Oh, cool. I have First Form. Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah. So he owns First Form, the company, and he invented a challenge called 75 Day Hard. And it's definitely hard. It's so basically, but it's the whole purpose of me talking about it is it's guidelines. It's something that, it's rules you give yourself that if you break, there's consequences, they're emotional consequences. Because, when your parents get mad at you, everybody's been yelled at. But the biggest thing that impacts you is when someone's like, I'm disappointed in you. So if you end up taking on this challenge and you fail, it's self-disappointment, which I think will ultimately motivate you in the future. But the 75-day challenge, which 75 hard is, if you skip a day, you must start over. If you miss a task, you must start over at day one. So you're starting at the beginning, self-disappointment, regret. So you pick a diet to follow with no alcohol or cheat meal. So any diet, right? You stay on it. You drink a gallon of water a day. You must complete 2 daily workouts. One of them must be outside. And then you have to read 10 pages per day of a nonfiction book. And then finally, you have to take progress photos every day. So that's, it's rules to give yourself, all while trying to hold yourself accountable and hold yourself to a specific standard. Because, when we make commitments, we try to keep them. And then when you break commitments, it's an awful feeling. So I think if you're looking for motivation, I think finding a challenge, and this is just one of many challenges that are out there, I think it'll definitely help you in your goal for the future. But is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well,
because I know we're running low on time.
Yep.
But
I guess if I was going to wrap up my part of it, you hit on something with the 75-day hard challenge, Cameron. The number 4, the 10 pages of a nonfiction book. That might seem a little weird to somebody who's thinking like, oh, I want to get in physical shape. But I think it wraps up to with what we're talking about, or it dovetails into what we're talking about when we talk about movies. A lot of times in these movies that we're talking about, it has to do, I think, something with hero. And I'm kind of formulating the thought as I'm talking about it. But, stuff we didn't get to, Troy. We got Bloodsport, Kickboxer. We got Luke Skywalker in here and his training on Dagobah with Yoda. Rocky. All these, our heroes are supposed to be kind of like ideals that we aspire to. Traditionally, this is how heroes have been thought of. Like they're not us, but it's places we can, it's people we can aspire to be like. In fact, I think in Man of Steel, there's a speech by Jor-El, his father, when he's speaking to his son. He's like, you're going to give them an ideal, something to aspire to. They're going to stumble and fail, but soon they're going to meet you out in the sun, And talking about this, read 10 pages of nonfiction. It says personal development, no audiobooks. There's a core idea of like becoming better than we are. You know what I mean? When you physically work out, hopefully it's not just a physical thing. And most of the time, I think if a lot of us are honest with ourselves, we're it's not just physical, it's emotional and spiritual and mental a little bit, because there's something that we're trying to like grow beyond. Maybe we have a fault that we have in our lives, or maybe there's somebody that we really look up to and admire. And one of the ways that we that we embody that is through physical fitness, And so looking at all these movies that we're talking about, maybe that's one thing somebody listening to this could take away from is, when you look at Captain America, like you could try to just be like Jack, like he is, like big, like he is, or you could look at the whole character of Captain America and what he stands for, and then try to embody that, even if you never get to the physical fitness level that he's at through secret super soldier serums. You could at very least get to the heart of what that character was about, which is his patriotism, his self-sacrifice, his
protecting others,
his loyalty to his friends. So it's an interesting thing to think about when you talk about just movies in general and what our heroes are like and what each culture and each generation holds up as like its ideal or its heroes, because I think that's changed in the last couple decades.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you're going to sharpen your sword, don't forget to polish your helmet. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I said bodybuilding's a little bit of a selfish thing to me, because like it's all about the way you look. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily who you are as a person. And I think, we always talk about mental toughness. It's like you can be physically tough, but if you're not mentally tough, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Like you will give up on yourself regardless of how physically fit you are, because you just don't got it. So, yeah, if you're going to pursue physical goals, it'll help a lot is if you are pursuing mental ones as well. But with that, I think this is a perfect opportunity to transition to our fan question. And this week, we get it from JoJo. I'll just leave it at JoJo, because that's all I got here. And JoJo asks, who is your main inspiration for health and fitness? In the past, who was it? Today, has it changed? Great question.
Wow.
Do you want to start, or do you want to think about it? Because I think I have an answer.
Go for it. You think? I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. Originally, so for me, I'm very influenced by the people that are around me. I don't necessarily look to, action heroes or celebrities or whatnot. Anybody that is, considered a influential figure. I typically take motivation from the people that I'm surrounded by day to day. So when before I was in the military, I was doing competitive hip hop dance. So obviously, it's a competitive sport. I guess. Would you even call it sport? I don't know.
Oh, but, it's definitely athletic.
Yeah, you're athletic. But I'm surrounded by other people that are trying to be better dancers. They're trying to improve themselves. They're always master the craft. So being surrounded by them made me want to be a better dancer. Made me want to get more in shape so I can do the routine longer without looking like a bag of ass. But then when I joined the military, you're given standards. And then you're trying to meet those standards. But then when you end up, when I got to, or at least when I knew I was pursuing Rangers, and I found the other ones in my, basic training that were also on the path to become Rangers, you would see their motivation to, crush the standards. Because I know just getting the bare minimum on the PT test would not equate to donning a tan beret. So, I think the people around, I don't think there's one influential figure that I've looked up, because everybody looks up to Arnold Schwarzenegger a lot in the health and fitness realm because he was the great of bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. But I don't know Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't talk with him every single day. He doesn't give me personal advice. He puts out a great message that's taken by millions of people and motivates them. But for me, that's not enough. I need emotional connection. So for me, surrounding myself by individuals, and it just completely ignited when I got into Ranger Regiment, because everybody is better than you. Yeah, everyone is better than you. Whether it's, someone can beat you in a bench press, somebody is stronger than you in a power clean, someone can run a 5 mile faster than you, somebody can ruck faster than you. There will always be somebody better than you. Shoot, drive faster than you, or drive better than you, shoot more accurately and faster than you. So, surrounding yourself with individuals that are better than you is for me. And I kind of took this saying where it's like, if you are the best person in the room, find a new room. That's been my philosophy since I got out of the military, because if you peak, what's pushing you to be better than you are? If you are the standard, how will you ever beat it? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're the best person in the room, find a new fucking room. Yeah.
That's great, man. Inspiration for health and fitness today, honestly, and I'm not just trying to butter her up because she's in the room, but my wife has been really instrumental in changing and inspiring me for general health and fitness, especially in my diet. Like before we got married, I was doing all right, but I made a lot of exceptions for myself. I let myself slack off especially when it came to diet, like eating sugary stuff, sugary drinks, that kind of thing. And then coming into joining my life with hers, I have since I've had more accountability. I love accountability. More accountability than I used to have because I live with somebody now who's kind of like, oh, what are you eating over there? I kind of, it's like, oh man, I don't want to drink this sugary drink because then she'll know. She always knows.
Yeah.
No, seriously, it's been great for that discipline and accountability. So I love talking about it with her, and then we send each other podcasts back and forth about health and fitness, and science-based solutions like the Huberman podcast. In terms of physical fitness, I just have this realization after getting past 40 of like I got to keep changing it up. I got to keep mixing up my challenges for my body because I've been doing CrossFit for 16 years at this point, and CrossFit's great. I think it's a solid physical fitness program, generally speaking, but even then you have to vary it within the program. You have to find variations and stuff. And so there's this guy I follow on Instagram, Eroding Weakness. He looks like an older dude, like maybe in his late 40s, early 50s. And he does the most insane compound movements with things like kettlebells and level changes and twisting and turning. And I want to really work on strengthening my core. And my big thing recently is up until my anniversary, I really got to correct my posture, man. There's just like, I'm kind of fighting an uphill battle when it comes to fitness if I don't correct my posture because I'm just ingraining bad habits, excuse me, into my body if I do so. So Eroding Weakness on Instagram and my wife right now.
Oh, awesome, man. That is a very heartfelt, and shout out to your wife. She is awesome, and I'm glad you have her.
She is.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, just like in good old Pop Culture Field Manual fashion, we have a game to take us out here.
Yep.
So I don't see it, so that means you got it, and I'm playing, and I'm a little nervous.
You're going to hate this game. Actually, you're going to like this game, but it's going to be tough because it's multiple choice. But this game is called Do You Even Lift, Bro? I'm not even going to give you the people's names. I'm not going to give you the people's names, and you have to tell me how strong they are based on how much they can lift. Now, before you start openly weeping, it is multiple choice. So let's get started. So I'm going to give you a range of... I'm going to give you the people's names. So I'm going to tell you who it is, and you're going to tell me how much you think they can lift based on the choices that I give you. So this this first one, there's no warm-up. There's only 5 of these, so it's not going to be too painful. But we're going to talk about the first one, which is the Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger style, T-800 version. How much can he lift? Can he lift A, 250 kilos? It's about 551 pounds.
Yep.
500 kilos, 750 kilos, or 1,000 kilos? How much can the T-800 lift?
Is there a manual that tells you how much the T-800 can
I'm
lift?
sure there's a wiki somewhere, like a wiki fandom kind of thing, but I could see which answer he put down for the multiple choice, but it's more just I don't know where he got it from. Maybe he just made it up. I'm sure he didn't make it up. Chris doesn't do that, but I'm sure he did a little bit of research. So 250.
Was one of the 250 kilos, 200 kilos, 250 kilos?
No, 250, 500, 750, or 1,000.
I'm going to go ahead and say 500 kilos because the Terminator is extremely strong and, over 1,000 pounds is really good to go. So I'm going to go with that one.
That is correct. 500 kilos is the answer. Good job, Cameron. All right, now we are going to go more into the real world. So now the real person, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, can he lift 710 pound this is a deadlift. So what's his deadlift?
Oh, deadlift. Okay.
710
I was going to say,
pounds?
just saying he lift, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know.
710 pound deadlift, 660, 610, or 560.
Okay. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, is this ever biggest recorded in history?
Well, let's see. Arnold Schwarzenegger says his best gym power lifts were a 545 pound squat, a 500 pound bench, a 7. Oh, dang it. Okay. Oh, dang it. I just gave it away.
Yeah, I'm going to guess 710 pound
I didn't know
deadlift.
if so. There's an explanation
honest.
here.
That was going to be my
Oh,
guess.
okay. All right.
Yeah, that was going to be my guess because, Arnold was very strong. Yeah. He's not the strongest bodybuilder that's ever, like, walked the planet because I think Ronnie Coleman was one of the strongest for his, in his, basically, history.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, 710 pounds, a lot of weight to deadlift. I think that's a good, that would be my educated guess until you gave it away. But yeah, final answer 700.
Okay, yeah, it's correct. Chris is yelling at me. He's like, I didn't know there's an explanation here with all these numbers on it, but I didn't know if that was something I was supposed to say or not, so I kind of gave it away. Sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
I'll tell you, it will help me if you give me, like, if you're saying that it's a squat and you tell me their deadlift and bench, if that's on there, that it's not giving it away, but it'll give me a good idea.
Okay. All right. Well, this one we're gonna start to get into the unbelievable realm now. So let's talk about the Hulk.
Oh, great.
Okay. All right. How much can the Hulk lift, generally speaking? 100,000 tons, 500,000 tons, 1 million tons, or D, there is no upper limit.
Oh man, I wonder if there's like, there's a biggest lift ever recorded for the Hulk. I'm gonna say 100. Would you say 100,000
tons? 500,000.
I'm gonna say 100. I'm gonna say 100,000 tons, just because that's a shit ton of weight, and like he has his limitations. He's not like uncomprehensive, like unimaginable strength. But to me, 100,000 tons is unimaginable strength. So,
well, according to Chris, that is incorrect.
Oh my God.
Because on here, the answer that he has here is there is no upper limit. I am sure. See, here's the thing with the Hulk, though, and this might be where Chris's explanation comes from. For the Hulk, the more angry he becomes, the stronger he gets, right?
Oh, really?
So I don't know if that's ever been quantitatively measured or qualitatively measured. But supposedly he could just keep getting angrier and angrier, and he just gets. I think even stronger, in the Ang Lee Hulk movie back in the day, he gets bigger and bigger too. The more angry he becomes.
Oh yeah, he does. That is true.
So
okay,
yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm not upset I got it wrong, but that is good movie fun facts.
Yeah, it's good movie lore for the Hulk. All right, the next one. This one's a little more grounded, but not very much so. Goku, in his base form of Dragon Ball Z.
Base force. Okay, base form.
Base
Goku.
form. Is it 10 tons, 100 tons, 1,000 tons, or 10,000 tons?
Okay, I'm going to go with 1,000 tons for Goku in his base form.
Ooh, not correct. According to this quiz, it's 100 tons
100
based
tons.
on...
1,000 tons is a lot of weight for base form. Maybe in Super Saiyan.
Super Saiyan form, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not super upset I got this wrong because this game is absolutely ridiculous, Chris. I want you to know that.
It's good. It's all right. It's okay because it's almost over. We got one more left. This is coming back down to earth, as it were.
Okay.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think he just goes by Dwayne
Big
Johnson
guy.
now.
Yeah,
I think
Dwayne
he's
Johnson.
left The Rock behind. But
it's probably too heavy to carry all these years.
is it A, 300-pound bench press? This is a bench press.
Okay.
So 300-pound.
Oh, we can bench way more than 300 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
400-pound bench press, 450 bench press, or 500-pound bench press.
Oof. Okay. I know The Rock is a very strong guy, and talk about discipline. This guy's one of the most disciplined dudes in the fitness industry right now. Because even when he's filming, he is working out.
Dude, he never
regardless.
stops, man.
Never stops. So I'm going to go ahead because the first two, 300 for that guy's size is not a lot. The most I've ever bench pressed was 315. So The Rock can definitely do that. To me, it's more towards the end. I'm between 450 and 500 for The Rock. But then again, never judge a book by its cover. I'm going to stick with something safe. Cause I don't know. For pain and gain, he was massive. So I'm just going to go for the latter and say 500 pounds for a bench press. If not, 450 would be my second guess.
All right, I got a little explanation here that we'll give the answer. According to benchpress.net, it has also been reported that Dwayne can bench up to 450 pounds for a 1-rep max on a good day if his energy levels are up. So you had good instincts, but you didn't quite stick the landing. 450 pounds is the answer we have here.
Okay. It was my second guess.
Yeah.
Just I wanted to really, give him Superman status. Just because I've seen little guys before in the powerlifting sector that can put up 500 pounds. But then again, sometimes I guess he's just got those anchor arms. But 450 is a lot of weight. That's the most 450 is my biggest deadlift ever.
Yeah, I haven't even. I think the upper parts of 300 is the heaviest deadlift I think I've ever tried to get, and that's been a while.
When I was at my strongest was when I was playing rugby, and I just got out of the Army.
Oh,
so I could bench 315, I could squat 415, and I could deadlift 450, and that was at 180 pounds.
wow.
So
Wow, good for you, man.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah, but that's so that I like measure myself to these guys, except for the Hulk and Goku, which they're immeasurable, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
that's in another. That's in the multiverse.
Yeah, but I mean, those are. It's cool to know. I didn't know that Hulk has like unmeasurable strength. That makes him a little cooler because when you see him in Marvel and the Avengers, like he doesn't get bigger.
Yeah.
And he like has limitations. Like you've seen things like crumble on him before, and that he can't like truly stop.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to take it back, Chris. You know, the game was absolutely ridiculous, but I appreciate your creativity. And as always, you come up with good games.
Yes, we appreciate you, Chris. And we appreciate all of you for joining us in today's episode. We're so glad you're here, folks. Big shout out to all our patron subscribers. Please join us on the Patreon if you haven't yet and you want more amazing content. We love you, folks. We got more great stuff on the way.
And with that, cue music.
What's going on, everybody? You just listened to the free version of the PCFM podcast. If you want full-length versions of podcast episodes, plus much, much more, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/PCFM podcast.
That is right, Israel. If you want access to this full episode, you have to subscribe to the Fuzzy Private tier, which is our cheapest tier on Patreon at $5 a month. But if you are interested in a little bit more, we also have the Salty Sergeant tier at $8 a month and the Lifer tier at $12 a month. So hopefully we will see you there, PCFM family. Cue music.